Big policy decisions have been taken to contain the coronavirus. And these decisions are based on the proportion of death and the infection rate in the country. Kenya's case fatality stands at 2% of the 11,673 cases of COVID-19 so far confirmed in the country. With continued uncertainty on how to slow the virus, the government tonight partially pins its hope on a public that has largely ignored its guidelines, yet tempted to lock up again. This as Kenya confirmed 421 cases of COVID-19 pandemic. Our health affairs reporter Winnie Lubembe has that update. Also tonight, Kajiado County Governor has appeared before the Senate Public Accounts and Investments Committee to shed light on the utilization of funds by his administration. Our political affairs reporter Jeff Khaimba brings you what happened at the committee level. On News Compass tonight, the Senate is deadlocked on the revenue sharing formula of 316 billion county cash. Can the Kenneth Lusaka-led House come up with a synthesized formula to channel funds to the devolved units? Arionade Jokanyanam, Chamage, the Rift Valley, Jambo, Mombasa, Kwale and Kilifi, Fidnimo-Wenaksan, Mandera, Garissa and Wajir, Ohoroa Uhaine, Kirinyaga County. Good evening, Nairobi. Jioni Ndai Mulembe. This is the Primetime News. I am Ayub Abdikadir Abdi. Our sign interpreter tonight is Joyce Wamwangi. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The short SMS code is 40920. The hashtag on Twitter is News Compass. Later, we'll be talking to Professor Hezron Mogambi, who lectures at the University of Nairobi and commentates on governance issues in the country, on the Senate that is deadlocked on the division of revenue allocation and the county cash, which amounts to 316 billion. Kenya has recorded the highest number of COVID-19 discharge or recoveries in 24 hours after 570 people are discharged across hospitals in the country. However, this does not mean much, as the majority of Kenyans, according to the Ministry of Health officials, have relaxed on the COVID-19 precautionary measures, risking high infection rates in the country. And as our health affairs reporter Winnie Lubembe reports, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe has put Lancet Laboratory on the spot for giving incorrect results of COVID-19. This as Kenya's positive cases hit 11,673.
Let's stay alive. Don't die. I have said it, and you have sung it. You can get it. I can get it. We can all. There you go.
This statement by the health CS is not new to many Kenyans. If anything, it has become music to many people's ears. Speaking in Nakuru County during the launch of the Primary Healthcare Strategic Framework and Community Health Policy, CS Kagwe said Kenyans ought to be more responsible. This even as the cases continue to rapidly increase following the confirmation of 421 new cases.
297, almost 300 of those are men or male, while 124 are female. And I have noticed, even when you are driving around the country, it is that figure corresponds with the use of masks. The most serious culprits of not using masks are men.
Nairobi leads in the number of infections with 6,491, Mombasa 1,783, Kiambu 640, while Nakuru 155. Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui says the cases have been spread across 10 sub-counties. However, the biggest challenge is
we have been undertaking the difficult task of taking samples from all these people who are suspects and taking their samples to Nairobi, and it has taken between 3 and 4 days to have some of those samples tested and confirmatory tests given back to us. This is not only inconvenient and costly, but also is an additional risk because these 3 or 4 days where the patient does not know their status, they continue to actively spread the same to others and therefore endangering everybody around us.
Despite the rapid increase in cases, 540 people have recovered, bringing the total recoveries to 3,638.
Out of this, 512 have been on home-based care, while 58 are from our various facilities. And this is likely to be the trend. Home-based care is likely to be the method going forward that we are going to be using.
8 others have, however, succumbed to the virus, bringing the cumulative number of deaths to 217. On the suspected cessation of inter-county movements by COG, CS Kagwe said,
"Are we noticing anything more than we expected?" And the truth is that we are not. This is exactly the modeling that was done.
Through the launch of the Primary Healthcare Strategic Framework and Community Health Policy, Kagwe says this model will help reduce the risk of spreading of the disease. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
Kajiado County Governor Joseph Olelenku risks paying more than 800 million Kenya shillings in a legal suit filed in 2005 by one of the hotel industries in the country. The county boss is now caught between a rock and a hard place should he lose the court battle after breaching the contract with a private developer. Our political affairs reporter Jeff Haimba with more.
It took more than 7 good hours for the Kajiado County boss Joseph Olelenku to clear the audit queries for the financial year 2016 and 2017. Lenku, while appearing before the Senate County Public Accounts and the Investment Committee, remained firm at no point he has ever swindled public coin. But the ongoing court battle between the county government and the hotel industry, dating back to 2005, has put the governor in murky waters over the mistakes committed by his predecessors who breached a contract.
The amount owing currently is approximately Kenya shilling 670 million, and however has not been recognized as a contingent liability.
The 300 million has continued to accrue interest. In fact, Mr. Chairman, as we talk now, it is more than 800 million. We are having a myriad of engagements to try and create an out-of-court settlement where, Mr. Chairman, we might agree with the owners of Kilimanjaro Safari Club to pay the original award because the county government cannot afford to pay anything more than that.
There is an element of responsibility here. There is a court award, and this is left to escalate from 300 million to 670 million. What can you explain, Governor?
It is an astronomical figure. The auditor has raised it. We have started to take corrective action. But even me, I don't believe that it was justified from day one for the county government to, or the people to be awarded that amount of money for land that belongs to the county. Mr. Chairman, the land in question actually belonged to Kajiado County Council then, whose assets have now moved to Kajiado County government.
In the report tabled by the Auditor General, the county leased Kilimanjaro Safari Club to a private developer on condition they do not put up another competing facility nearby. However, the county breached the contract by allowing Oltukai Lodge to set up another modern hotel nearby, thus prompting a court battle in 2005, where in 2009, the court ruled in favor of Kilimanjaro by awarding them 300 million Kenyan shillings.
I don't know, when governor says the matter is still in court, and he says we have already made a provision of 100 million to honor the award. Is it the money meant for the legal fees for the lawyers who will, because the matter is pending in High Court, or you want to pay the award?
That 100 million is not legal fees, but as part of the down payment. I want to confirm that the county government has lost this case several times. You know, from the time of arbitration to a first appeal to several other court engagements. So the court has been outrightly saying that the county government, you have an obligation to pay this.
By now, the governor is caught between a rock and a hard place. Should he lose the case?
But if then the court come and rule and say the county must honor this liability, then we begin by paying what we have allocated as a county to say yes.
The other matters the governor was put to task to explain by the Auditor General was about the construction of the modern library in Kajiado Town, Ngong Sports Complex, Nelepa Primary School, and Kajiado County Referral Hospital, among others. Project said to have stalled. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Haemba.
Now, even as cases of COVID-19 are expected to surge in the coming days, there's a growing concern among the elderly. A section of the elderly population in the county of Kisii are now seeking alternative treatment for their underlying conditions as they seek to reduce the possibilities of interacting with people with COVID-19. Take a look.
As the number of fatalities in the country continues to rise, there has been a growing concern among the elderly in regards to the spread of the deadly contagion, especially in rural areas. For the elderly population in Kisii, totaling to about 65,000, life has not been the same. Most of them have underlying conditions of hypertension, diabetes and cancer, among others.
Nikaendelea kukuja mwezi wa 12 mzima. Sikukuwa natembea. Niko na arthritis, niko na diabetes, niko na ALS.
Nilikuwa na shida kubwa sana miaka 20. Na hiyo miaka 20 nilikuwa naenda hospitalini. Asma hiyo nilikuwa nayo.
Nilitaya kama 20 years ago. Na wakati nilitaya, nilidevelop at home, nilidevelop mgongo, nilikuwa na shida ya mgongo. Singeweza kufanya kazi ngumu kwa muda mrefu.
The elderly have been forced to seek other treatment as they are vulnerable to the deadly contagion.
We have met different clients with different complications of their body. Some suffering from diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke and arthritis. But through our technology, that is catch power technology, that involves 14 natural earth minerals, then we have seen a result and impact to all clients.
Most of those people who have succumbed to the deadly contagion had underlying conditions.
So that is one of the challenges because these restrictions have been removed. So what we have told the people to do, because we have the elderly, those people who are diabetic with hypertension and cancer, and these are the people who are weak, their immune system is weak. The relatives who are coming from Nairobi, like the brothers, sisters, maybe a child, we have told our chiefs to go on with sensitization so that they tell these people, when you come in, please quarantine yourself.
Abdikadir Hashim, Ebru TV.
Residents from Vihiga, Elgeyo Marakwet, Samburu, Tana River and Embu counties are more likely to die if they contract COVID-19 and develop complications that will require them to be treated in an intensive care unit. This is according to a report by the Council of Governors, which also says that there are only 442 ICU beds and 437 ventilators in the country.
It has been 10 days since President Uhuru Kenyatta lifted the cessation of movement in the counties of Nairobi, Mombasa and Mandera, and now over 3,500 new infections have been detected, with over 2,000 of them found in Nairobi, with Kiambu and Machakos, a trend that is raising concerns among county bosses. As the movement and interaction of people increases, Kenyans are faced with the reality that the country has just under 500 ICU beds in public hospitals, with many counties having none. The COG report also notes that it's going to be tough for residents in Makueni, Kilifi, Turkana, Isiolo, Wajir, Busia, Bomet, Laikipia, Uasin Gishu and Garissa, which have fewer than 10 ICU beds in their wards. On the other hand, Machakos, Kajiado, Kisii, Nakuru, Nyandarua, Trans Nzoia and Kiambu have just about 15 beds in ICU wards. This report comes barely a few weeks after Health CS Mutahi Kagwe warned that there will no longer be evacuation of COVID-19 patients with complications to Nairobi and urged counties to prepare to handle the patients. However, counties' preparedness to handle the rising cases of COVID-19 remains a puzzle. Counties are expected to have at least 300 ICU beds in their isolation centers, but currently only 26 counties out of the 47 have achieved the target. Some of the counties that have hit the 400-bed mark include Nairobi, Mombasa, Machakos, Bungoma, Laikipia, and Garissa. The counties which have not met the target are Baringo, Bomet, Busia, Elgeyo Marakwet, Embu, Isiolo, Kajiado, Siaya, Taita Taveta, Tana River, Turkana, Kitui, Lamu, Marsabit, Migori, Meru, Nyamira, Samburu, and Kisumu. Council of Governors Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya said the remaining 21 counties are working towards achieving the target by July 22nd, noting that counties are at different levels of preparedness. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
The preparedness level of the county is always a critical factor in the next phase in the fight against the pandemic, even as the government pins its hope on public discipline to contain the fast-spreading COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Elsewhere, the Higher Education Loans Board has announced that the issuance of compliance certificate to non-beneficiaries will be free. Through a statement from the Chief Executive Officer Charles Ringera, the board said it will stop charging 1,000 shillings for youth seeking jobs, saying the fee has been perceived as punitive for non-beneficiaries. The board added that the complaints raised by the beneficiaries on various platforms regarding the same, with some saying that unemployment and underemployment challenges could not allow them to raise the money. HELP said that the slow economic growth and the escalated cost of living, as well as the retrenchment and the downsizing affecting all sectors and which have been exacerbated by COVID-19 pandemic, had hardened the situation. Religious leaders have been called on to safeguard the well-being of their congregants or congregations by adhering to the self-regulating guidelines in reopening places of worship developed by the Interfaith Council chaired by Archbishop Anthony Muheria. This comes as several places of worship last week were given the go-ahead by the government to remain to open, while others have opted to be closed, saying that they are not just ready to open following the guidelines provided by the Interfaith Council, which advised the government on the prevention mechanisms put in place by the houses of worship in the country in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic.
Bishop Mike Brawan says that the high number of COVID-19 positive cases being recorded in the country had been spiked by Kenyans' non-adherence to the measures put in place by the Ministry of Health. A section of clergymen have opposed some of the regulations that saw places of worship reopened under stringent guidelines following negotiations between religious leaders, the National Security Council and the National Emergency Response Committee on COVID-19.
The government has done us favor to give us an opportunity. These things that they require, the requirement the government wants, is not for the government, it's for the health of our people. I don't want to have my members dying just because we were careless.
The bishop called on religious leaders to come up with innovations where they can reach their congregants under 13 years old and people aged 58 years and above, as well as those with underlying conditions such as hypertension and diabetes from home.
Whatever the government puts forth, we need to support it and see why. We need to know the reason behind it. So we cannot just criticize. I don't have this culture of Kenyan people who criticize something even when they don't know, have the reason why they criticize.
Last week, the Pentecostal Alliance of Kenya claimed that limiting services to 1 hour is an insult to God and that the Constitution covers the freedom of worship. The Clergy Association of Kenya raised similar concerns in a statement on Sunday. Executive member Bishop Hudson Denda saying the restrictions, including having only 100 people in the services that last 1 hour, lower the significance of the church. Bishop Brawan notes that religious leaders should prioritize the well-being of their congregants before reopening places of worship, as poorly managed church gatherings pose a high risk and may be new COVID-19 hotspots. In Germany, a cluster of 112 infections and 1 death were traced to one church, while another 30 cases were traced to a church in West Virginia in the United States of America.
That story by Kaindo Stefano, and of course the Kenyan flag bearer in the contest for the WTO head, and we wish Ambassador Amina Mohammed all the very best. Coming up is the sports news and the happy ending on what happened last night in the north of the English capital, London. Arsenal won, and spell of dry, winless run following the resumption of the English Premier League after COVID-19. So we are back with that voiceover by none other than Davis Mberia, who is a Man United fan. Up next. We start first locally. The existing crisis in regards to the sponsorship of Kenya's top-tier football league, KPL, will now be a thing of the past starting next season. This is after the Football Kenya Federation, FKF, unveiled a 1.2 billion sponsorship deal with a Nigerian gaming firm. The 5-year deal takes effect the beginning of the 2020-2021 season, primed to start in September.
The mega deal projects that all top-tier clubs will receive 8 million per season. A percentage from the windfall will also be channeled into the Kenya Women League.
This sponsorship starts at $2.2 million in year 1 and grows by 5% in year 2 and grows by 10% in the subsequent years. My vision is to reach 20 million shillings for every club. And I can tell you today that we have a few more sponsors that we are speaking to. The license fees that is supposed to come to FKF, we shall dedicate it to the Women Premier League. That could be about 12 million shillings.
While defending the move to launch the deal amidst a standoff between the FKF and the Sports Dispute Tribunal over the delayed pause, FKF boss Nick Mwendwa distanced himself from the ongoing heated campaigns, advising clubs to get ready for the new season when the government or K's return to conduct sporting activities.
Nyamwea sign mkataba September 21st, 2015 akapatia KPL 5 years. Nilipokuja kwa ofisi hatukusema haupo. FIFA will speak. The door will be open. I expect them to walk through the door, present their nomination papers and deal with us. We think that maybe in the month of October, we are going to begin to go back to the pitch. We are waiting for the protocol to be finished and the government to tell us what to do. Kuna testing ya wachezaji na officials. Kuna testing labda kabla mechi ichezwe.
Mwendwa applauded the ongoing renovation and construction works across several regional stadia, a move he says will bring back fans into the stadia.
I hope na natarajia kwamba wataweza kumaliza ndio kila klabu ya Premier League na NSL ichezea football kwa stadium ili iko karibu na kwao.
The FKF boss rubbished claims of any opaqueness in the process of sharing out a whopping 159 million shillings that the federation is said to receive from FIFA's COVID grant. The relief fund is said to cushion associations from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic.
Kila shilingi ya FIFA huwa umeambiwa utaitumia vipi. Tunangoja guidelines za FIFA. Wakishatoa guidelines ndio pesa itakuja. Nimeona watu wengine wakisema sijui nini. Itakuwa clear. Pesa ya FIFA ya COVID support haijakuja.
Benjamin Mwaka, Ebru TV Sports.
That's where we come to a close here on the primetime news. Coming up next on News Compass will be, of course, taking the account of Professor Hezron Mugambi in regard to the divide over the revenue sharing formula and how the Senate needs to come up with a synthesized formula to share the 316 billion county cash. And we, of course, have seen the decry expressed by many senators whose counties have been affected and what this means for devolution sovereignty in the country 7 years since the governance model was first incepted under the 2010 Constitution. The hashtag on Twitter, News Compass, the short SMS code is 40920. We are back after the break on the broadcast. Stay tuned.